Yo, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another reaction video. We got the Trevor Lawrence experiment is officially over. Now, I don't think it's over just yet. You know what I'm saying? This obviously is a make or break season for his career. You know what I'm saying? But they're trying whatever they can do to really make sure that he's their franchise guy by putting a lot of talent around him, drafting Brian Thomas Jr., signing Gabe Davis. You know what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and check this out. Because Trevor Lawrence has definitely been disappointing in a way, because he was one of the most highly touted prospects coming out of the draft.
If you think that Trevor Lawrence is a franchise quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, then you have to pay him, and you should pay him as soon as possible.
I don't know if this dude is capable of winning a Super Bowl. I don't know if he's our franchise quarterback. I don't know.
Damn, man.
Trevor Lawrence is the most hyped quarterback to emerge from college football in the last decade.
Do I think that he's done developing? No. Do I think he's achieved everything that he has been expected to achieve in the NFL?
She fine as shit.
Do I think that he looks exactly the way that we expected him to look out of college? No. But I do think he is the franchise quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And now he's on the cusp of his most pivotal season yet. In 2024, the pressure is on as he faces the toughest challenges of his career, with the need to prove he's gonna be worth every penny of his hefty new extension.
They gotta sign him.
Video, we're gonna talk about
after this season?
This year is a make or break for Lawrence, and if his performance will define his legacy and future in the NFL for the years to come. In his time as the Clemson quarterback, he went 34-2 and won a national championship game along the way, being named MVP in a phenomenal blowout win over Alabama in January of 2019. From that moment, most analysts agreed that Lawrence was destined to be a surefire #1 pick in the draft.
When you look at his ability and his ceiling, he does have a huge ceiling. This kid has...
Bro, do not listen to anything Tim Tebow says, my nigga. Like, because, bro, people thought he was, you know what I'm saying, one of the greatest quarterbacks. Well, the Broncos thought he was one of the greatest quarterbacks.
His team, he leads
this
his
nigga's
team,
biggest bust of all time.
He cares for people. I think he would be a great selection to lead a franchise because he will actually do that.
They believe that whichever team ended up fortunate enough to draft him would secure a true franchise quarterback for many years to come. And in April of 2021, the Jacksonville Jaguars were that franchise, selecting him first overall and making fans in Duval County dream of a bold new future with Lawrence and legendary college football head coach Urban Meyer. That didn't happen at all, though.
Saying that it was so bad, quote, "I'm surprised he lasted that long, to be honest with you. Told us from day one he was going to maximize our value, and I truly can't tell you one player that maximized their value on the Jags this year." That's how bad
it's tough, man. Bro got the best dad ever. Damn thing.
What
That's
a
hilarious.
total, complete failure.
Lawrence endured an extremely rough debut season in Jacksonville, throwing more interceptions than touchdowns and ranking as the worst starter in the league in passer rating with a dismal 71.9. However, most fans
you couldn't really blame him on his rookie season, bro.
He was fired before the end of the year, giving Lawrence a real fresh start in 2022. It would prove to be a much better campaign for Lawrence and the Jaguars under new head coach Doug Peterson.
Already look better. Doug Peterson will make them better. The addition of Peterson is now amplified by the subtraction of the greatest fraud perpetrated ever.
On top of this, the front office also pushed the boat out to bring in a new wide receiver #1 in Christian Kirk. And the ex-Cardinal recorded more than 1,100 yards through the air, making Lawrence's job that much easier in his sophomore season. And I mean, look, with a new head coach and a new wide receiver, Trevor Lawrence truly thrived in the second half of that season. He threw 15 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions from week 9 onwards, as the Jags won 7 of their last 9, clinching the AFC South title and a playoff berth. In the wildcard round against the Chargers, Lawrence overcame a brutal first half.
I still don't understand how the Chargers let them come back.
Famous 31-30 comeback win
Asante
as
Samuel
time
Jr.
expired.
had,
I mean, like, this truly
3
just added
interceptions.
more misery onto another long-suffering fan base in the Chargers too.
This kid threw 4 picks. Horrible picks. Give me one, like, no, you know, like, damn, that was a heck of a play by the DB. I'm like, dude, he was just like hitting people in the chest. And then he just forgot everything. He just like rebooted and started from scratch.
The following week, though, wasn't the same, as Jackson fell pretty much predictably to the Chiefs, but Trevor Lawrence had absolutely broken through as one of the league's top quarterbacks and looks set to rule that division for at least the next few years. And look, I mean, they might have lost
CJ
that
Stroud
game
came
to the
into
Chiefs,
play.
but at the end of the day, they truly did look like they were in that game from start to finish, and one different play could have made that game just completely different. Like,
I think the
Jags
fumble
were
they had in
actually
the red
pretty
zone.
close to stealing that game in Arrowhead. Fast forward to the 2023 season now, Lawrence was
Calvin
given
Ridley.
another major weapon in former Falcons receiver Calvin Ridley Jr., a former All-Pro receiver whom Atlanta were happy to move on as a result of his gambling suspension, which had seen him miss the entire 2022 season. And coming into this season, it was fair to say that a lot of people were hyped on Trevor Lawrence, even including myself. I bought some of his cards thinking he was going to have a breakout year. And
Yeah, I
just
thought he was
be
gonna have a breakout
possible
year last year,
MVP
too.
candidate this past season.
This team grows.
Man, they
as
started
Lawrence
off
grows.
good. I'm
As
saying
much as
that
he
8-3.
improves, this team improves. We saw him take a huge
then
jump last season.
just
I think we've seen
everything went
another
downhill from
jump
there, bro.
This season, with the addition of Calvin Ridley playing wide receiver to go along with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and Evan Ingram, who still remains unsigned.
Zay Jones
on that franchise
dealt with
tag. But
injuries
to
too
me,
last year.
This
This
team
nigga throwing with his
reminds
eyes
me a little
closed. The
bit
hell?
of what the Colts were supposed
No
to
wonder
be
why
before
he's throwing so many
Andy Luck
interceptions.
retired.
Like, not only that, a lot of people thought that they were going to not only get a playoff berth, but also maybe make a little run in the playoffs if they got there. However, in his third season, honestly, more questions were raised about Lawrence than answered.
the
And to
fuck?
be fair, at
Sorry
the beginning
about
of this
that.
season, they looked
Oh
good.
my
The team was
gosh,
sitting
bro.
pretty at 8-3 after week 11.
That's just the Fox
following
Sports
a
app on my
hard-fought win
phone,
over
gang.
division rivals Houston.
Gotta turn
They
that shit
themselves
off.
were putting together an impressive rebuild under their own exciting new quarterback, CJ Stroud. Like, I mean, it's crazy to say this, and I don't know if a lot of people are going to remember this, but at this point in the season, the Jaguars had a 99% chance of making it into the playoffs. I mean, they were sitting atop the AFC South at this time. But what followed next, nobody would see coming.
4 takeaways. They got 5 sacks in this game. Game is over. One of the most entertaining games of the season.
This team is tough to beat.
Damn, bro. I mean, did they really think that they were going to beat us? Let's keep it a buck, bro.
Jaguars are still in first.
Yeah, they got stomped out by the Bugs.
Same record, losing today.
Lawrence to the air, incomplete over the head of Ingram. Tennessee will take over in Jacksonville. Cannot stop the clock.
Damn.
Just 6 weeks later, after 5 losses out of 6, the Jags fell to 9-8 and missed the playoffs entirely.
Jaguars are the one team that I thought was most likely to win their division, period, end of statement. Mainly because we didn't expect the Colts or the Texans to be anything, and they both ended up being great.
Yeah.
And that's it. Jaguars done. Tough pill to swallow if you're a Jaguars fan, because you came into the season thinking we're going to be right back where we were last year.
I mean, all that young talent.
I felt so bad for
headed in the right
Jaguars
direction.
fans to have to endure
and,
that last
you know,
season.
You thought, wait, they got guys on the defensive side of the ball. That's all arrow up. It's all going to come together. The Jaguars clearly are the best team in the AFC South. Just really fell apart towards the end of the season.
In a shocking
I've been
turn
saying
of
that for a
events
while.
which almost mirrored the year before. And rightly so, a lot of this blame was put onto Lawrence, who in many ways kind of took some steps backwards last year. Like, I mean, down that stretch where they lost a ton of games, he honestly looked terrible in some of these games.
Would you put it on injuries for him too? Because he did get hurt, but I don't necessarily think you can really blame injuries on that, on his performances, bro. Obviously, he did recover from that, but he was awful after, you know what I'm saying, coming back from that injury.
The one that stands
Just don't
out
know
the
if you can
most to me
blame it on
is
that.
the Christmas Eve showing in Tampa Bay where he threw 2 interceptions and had a pass.
Like, he
rating
looks
of
he looks
64
fluid,
as
you know what I'm saying, in the
Jaguars swept
pocket.
aside by a distinctly average Buccaneers side. The final nail in the coffin, though, came in Week 18 when the Titans, who had already been eliminated from playoff contention, beat the Jaguars. Like, I mean, in this one, Trevor Lawrence again threw 2 interceptions.
Okay,
and
now
failed
that
to
one wasn't
beat
his
the
fault.
Jaguars.
That
Like,
hit
in
that
this
hit
one, Trevor
Ingram
Lawrence
right in the
again
chest.
threw 2 interceptions and failed
Yeah,
to
that
convert
wasn't
on
his
a fourth
fault.
down on 3 separate occasions as the Jags.
But that one
desperately
was.
tried
He
to keep
overthrew
their
Zay
hopes
Jones.
alive. After the third of these, which was a 4th and 2 incompletion to Evan Ingram, fell short, the Jaguars' season was over, having completed a legendary
man.
collapse and leading to a real crossroad in both the careers of Trevor Lawrence as well as
That's
the
tough,
long-term
man.
future of this franchise. And as we we go into the 2024 season, which is now Trevor Lawrence's 4th season in the NFL, he truly hasn't hit any of those high.
I mean, they can still pick up his 5th-year option too, but you would want to pay him right now because Tua's contract is coming up soon. You already know Miami might pay him a bag, so they might want to go ahead and give Lawrence's contract now.
I mean, admittedly, the hype was always there.
If they are going to re-sign him,
to that hype was going to be a challenge from the get-go. Like, I mean, coming out of college, this kid was expected to be the likes of like John Elway, Peyton Manning, or even Andrew Luck. That's what he was trying to live up to and just never got to. Now, I will say Trevor Lawrence's first year was a total write-off due to the coaching of Urban Meyer, if you even want to call it that, who clearly wasn't cut out for a coaching role in the NFL. But since then, he's guided the Jags to 2 9-8 seasons and thrown for just over 4,000 yards in each of these seasons with 46 touchdowns and 22 interceptions. And
like, that is not a good touchdown-interception ratio.
And these are good numbers of a good quarterback, but are they good numbers of an elite quarterback that they want him to be? And I
mean, the passing yards numbers, yeah, but like, look at the touchdown to interception ratio, bro. Like, come on now.
No, I don't really think he is.
He can throw as many yards as he wants, but if he keeps turning over the ball, like, that's not gonna do him any good.
Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, and Baker Mayfield all earning more than $30 million a year, and in Goff's case, more than $50 million. The franchise will want to get this sorted sooner rather than later and avoid this being a major distraction.
He still got potential, I feel like,
bro.
The
Jags will be looking to regain their AFC South crown from the Texans. And by the time you are watching this video, I truly don't know. Trevor Lawrence might already have gotten his contract extension and is getting paid that $50 million.
As at the time of me reacting to this, he hasn't at all.
Because he's a franchise quarterback or because he looks like one? Like, I mean, I think it's fair to say this too. I think the Jags kind of have to tie down Lawrence and get him on a contract extension because they truly have not had a franchise quarterback since the days of like David Garrard or something like that.
Damn, that's back in like 19.
That if you guys have not, make sure to join my Discord where we are doing monthly giveaways. In June, I should be doing 2 autographed fan all of this
promo
increases Lawrence's demands and shows us what the new normal is for quarterback salaries in 2024. Like, look, I think paying Trevor Lawrence is pretty inevitable here, and I think it's going to happen eventually, either before the season or after the season, or hell, maybe even during the season. But honestly, that might be setting this franchise up for failure in the future. Again, in 2023, Lawrence had a situation that more than half of the league's starting quarterbacks would have bitten your hand off for. Like, the dude had talent all around him, and Calvin Ridley, he was given an elite wideout and wasn't quite able to.
But the team that they have now around him, I think is the best team that he's, you know what I'm saying, ever had around him. You know what I'm saying? Other than, you know what I'm saying, college where he had Justin Ross and T. Higgins and shit like that. But now that he's got Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, who is a solid tight end, and Travis Etienne, you know what I'm saying? Tank Bigsby's a nice secondary running back to Etienne. But I feel like this might be the team for him to really explode this year for probably over 4,000 yards. I don't know about the touchdown interceptions. He's got to really prove that he can stop turning the ball over, but we'll just have to see, bro.
1,000 yards on the year, but never quite hit the heights that he did in Atlanta during his time in Florida. As for the running game, Lawrence,
but Ridley was just coming off of getting suspended, so
who has recorded back-to-back.
No, so it's still coming off a 1,000-yard season for him is still pretty good after not playing for about 2 years.
Plus, Lawrence enjoyed the company of tight end Evan Ingram, a 2-time Pro Bowler who impressed even in some mediocre at best New York Giants offenses. In Ingram, the Jags have one of the league's best players at the position. Yet another example of the firepower that Lawrence had at his disposal last year, and the Jags just didn't make the most of it. So I mean, it's not as if Lawrence hasn't had a supporting cast in the last 2 years. The Jags have put key offensive pieces around him and been unable to get elite production out of their QB1. And remember, this has been all while Trevor Lawrence has been on a rookie contract, which I think at the most is like a $10 million cap hit. If the dude gets a huge extension, then I don't even know if they're going to be able to bring in any more talent or even try to recruit people to come play there just because of the money. I mean, hell, Calvin Ridley himself opted to even move on, signing for a divisional rival in the Tennessee Titans instead. The Jags did offer Ridley a contract, but for whatever reason, he still decided to move on, stating that
he wanted to get paid big money.
Working out for me when talking to the Jaguars. The Jags' biggest addition at receiver this year was former Bills wideout Gabe Davis on a $39 million contract, 3-year deal. Davis
Huge
was a
Calvin
solid
Ridley
performer in
replacement.
Buffalo who spent his time there as mostly a wide receiver 2 to Stephon Diggs, providing Josh Allen with a solid number 2 option in the passing game. Now, whether Davis is treated as a true number 1 wide receiver remains to be seen, but it looks as though the Jags are going to find out one way or another, with the next option on the depth chart being Christian Kirk. And look, I'm gonna be pretty frank with this, but Christian Kirk is a player the Jags overpaid for 2 years ago. Like, as desperate teams,
like, bro, when I first saw that, I was like, bro, am I looking at this right? Because he was pretty good at at Arizona, but he was not worth that money that they paid him at all.
Rebuild, he hasn't been.
They act like this nigga was prime Julio Jones or some shit.
In 2 seasons is not the level of production you'd hope for an $18 million a year wide receiver. However, the most interesting move I think that the Jaguars have done at any position this offseason has been at the quarterback position. Jacksonville traded a 6th-round pick to the New England Patriots for Mac Jones, a man who was drafted in the 2021 first round alongside.
Imagine this might be the smartest move the Jags has ever done. Like, say if Trevor Lawrence is playing horribly bad, and then Mac Jones comes in and plays way better than Trevor Lawrence, and then Mac Jones ends up being their number 1 guy and ends up getting paid a contract from them, and then they just let Trevor Lawrence walk. That would be an insane storyline, bro.
But whose career has followed a
that would be
very
crazy.
Path. Jones's first,
because I feel like Mac Jones could still be good, but they did not set him up for good success in New England at all.
Been anything but that. Jones was benched for the last.
Like his best receiver was who? Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, in his whole time of being in New England, it was either him or Devontae Parker, but both of them are washed at this point, as Parker just retired a couple weeks ago or whatever. But man, that'll be an insane story if he replaces Trevor Lawrence.
Understandably chosen to move on from him and pick up Drake May with the 3rd overall pick in the 2024 draft. And look, we all know that the Patriots do need a reset right now, and I think it's fair to ask the same question: does Mac Jones also need that reset? And it's kind of 100%. Funny to see these guys on the same roster, because I think their narratives couldn't be more unsimilar than these 2 guys. Like, I mean, one of these guys is about to pick up a massive contract and is probably going to be the face of this franchise. The other's NFL career is hanging on by a thread, and possibly after this season may never play another snap in the NFL. And this is the craziest part, though. If you go between these 2 and you compare the stats between them, they're not that different. Like, some of these stats I'm about to read you, it's kind of crazy that they're both so parallel to each other.
And the difference, like, bro, and I feel like the only difference is Mac Jones has had mediocre wide receiver play, and Trevor Lawrence has had the talent around him to be good and just continue to suck, bro. Like, that's the only difference.
With 43% to 40%. Lawrence has a lead on passing yards per game and touchdowns, but when it comes down to passer rating, Jones has an extremely narrow lead of 85.8 to Lawrence's 85. Like, for some reason, this doesn't sound right, but the Jags...
Mac Jones has 117 rush attempts?
And I think it's safe to say that they might have brought him in
to
maybe light a fire under Lawrence's ass to maybe just make sure that he is working, because in his time...
Hey, maybe that is why they traded for him.
Had a challenger for the quarterback role.
Maybe
like, I think
a backup
his
plan.
Competition was a 30-year-old
maybe
CJ Beathard who
Trevor Lawrence play better.
Backup in the NFL. Where we look at Jones, who has proven himself, I mean, briefly, but as a starting caliber NFL quarterback, which he demonstrated throughout that impressive first year in New England, which now feels so long ago. Jones is almost certainly on his last chance here, and it's fair to say that he's not a serious contender to start in week 1. But make no mistake, as I said before, I do think that this trade kind of does, put a little pressure on Lawrence in this season. Like, I mean, this time last year, it would have been crazy to think Lawrence being benched, but I mean, after the Jaguars' derailed season last year, would it really be that crazy if they sat him and maybe gave Mac Jones a shot?
Hey, I literally just said that, bro.
The previous one ended. It's definitely
I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Doug Peterson and his coaching staff might need to have. And look, the early schedule isn't kind to them either, with all 4 of their first games coming against teams that
that's a tough start to the schedule, though, to the season. Because Miami, they're always, up and down. Cleveland's got a great defense. Buffalo probably not gonna be as explosive as last year. They might get blown out by the Texans, and the Colts have gotten better in the offseason. I could definitely see them losing all of these games, but I can also see them beating Buffalo.
Winning records last year. The Dolphins, the Browns, the Bills, the new kings of the division, CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. And speaking of the Texans, the rise of them has been another problem for Lawrence and the rest of the franchise to deal with. Like, I mean, just 2 years ago, the Texans were pretty much the little brother that everybody in the NFL would go and beat up on and really posed no threat to the division at all. Now, however, the Texans look like one of the football's very best teams, having made last season's divisional round and looking well placed to do even better next season. Last year, the Texans not only picked up CJ Stroud with the second pick, but they traded up to select Will Anderson Jr. with the number 3 pick in an aggressive move that paid off immediately. As we all know, Stroud and Anderson both won their respective Rookie of the Year awards, and the Texans completed their rebuild in record time, becoming one of the league's most exciting and fun teams to watch along the way. They've added big names on defense like Alshire and Danielle Hunter, as well as making their own blockbuster trade for Stephon Diggs, creating an elite wide receiver room alongside Tank Dell and Nico Collins.
And they just re-signed Nico Collins. Was it today? I think it was today or yesterday. They just re-signed him to a 3-year, $72 million deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Or not, fans of the Jags watching the Texans rebuild the way they have probably makes them really jealous. It makes me really jealous as a Saints fan, and we've been successful. Like, I mean, hell, in just 12 short months, the Texans have gone from being the little brother that got beat up on to now they are the reigning champions and the favorites to win the AFC South, and the Jags are nowhere to be seen. Like, I mean, this is truly not just Trevor Lawrence's fault, but now they're playing catch up and he needs to step up if they want to make it back to the playoffs. And undoubtedly, they have some massive pressure, not only on Lawrence, but as a team as well. And with all that being said, it's clear that Trevor Lawrence needs to have a breakout season in 2024.
It was today. Yeah, 3-year, $72 million deal, bro.
The start of the season,
that was posted 5 hours ago.
Show fans everywhere, and especially in
that's a W right there.
He is one of those elite game-changing.
Got him locked up for the next 3 years.
Team to a Lombardi Trophy, and there have been flashes of magic over these 3 years in the league. And his highlight reel shows a confident, comfortable passer who is capable of making all kinds of throws. The biggest issue has been putting it all together for a full 17 games, something he has yet to do in the pros so far. The second half against the Los Angeles Chargers on January 14th, 2023 really looked like that coming of age moment for him, as he looked every bit the franchise quarterback that he was promised to be. Now, whether he lives up to the title of the prince that is promised really remains to be seen, but the 2024 season is undoubtedly the biggest one yet, especially if Mac Jones is going to be breathing down his neck. If he doesn't perform in 2024 and the Jaguars miss the playoffs again, we'll really have to start asking questions about this guy and whether or not the Jags will make a big mistake by landing a big money contract on his desk in the offseason. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Trevor Lawrence is truly an elite quarterback? Is he going to even survive in the NFL?
If he doesn't play good this year, I feel like it's gonna be over for him, bro. You know what I'm saying? And maybe they give Mac Jones a shot. You know, because I feel like Mac Jones definitely deserves one after dealing with New England these last few years of them not having good talent. Now the Jags have good talent, but if Trevor Lawrence cannot play good at all, then it might be Mac Jones' time to shine in Jacksonville. But I want to know what you guys think, though, down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Turn on post notifications, get notified whenever I drop another banger video. We're on the road to 200 subs. Help me get there for more banger NFL content like this. Without further ado, I'm out. Gang!